hits all the time.
We are family.
Hanser double-digit Ks.
We're busting ours to kick yours.
Fun to watch.
Minus 15.
Respect all, fear none.
Into the upper deck.
Intensity is not a curfew.
Oh, mercy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
From inside of the warehouse, up on the 5th floor here in Oriole Park at Camden Yards, it is the MASN All Access Podcast. Paul Mancano and Bobby Blanco here with you.
Hello.
To talk some Orioles baseball. We're also going to bring in Amy Jennings in a little bit. She was down at the Frederick Keys Stadium covering the Carolina League All-Star Game, All-Star Classic, if you will. I won't, but if you will.
9 keys in that game.
9 keys.
9 keys named to that game.
Crazy.
Pretty impressive.
Crazy stuff. And we're going to keep it a shorter episode today. We got an earlier game, afternoon game for the Orioles.
Yep, travel day.
3:30-ish time. So we will keep it quick, but let's talk about those Baltimore Orioles, Bobby.
Yeah.
Tough loss last night, one of 7 straight at this point. Brandon Hyde did not mince words last night when talking about it. He called it pretty embarrassing. The final was 16-2. They have had some close games on this road trip, and in the past, the road trip is very short, but in the past week or so, in the last 7 games, some of them have been very close. The first game of the series was very close, that 3-2 loss to the A's. That one was not. Yeah. And it was another sign of one of those games where they were in it for most of the game, then the bullpen just imploded and they didn't have a chance.
Well, it's the frustration is starting to boil over for Brandon Hyde, and you can't blame him. It's tough, like you said, and we've heard other players say. Richie Martin references. We've heard Brandon Hyde himself say this. They're in most games actually. The final score might not show it, but if you're watching these games the Orioles are playing, they're actually in it for the most part. And Brandon Hyde said last night, I thought it was a major league game through 5 innings or 6 innings, whatever it was, because it was. The Orioles, they were down 4-0. They cut it to 4-2. They gave 2 runs right back. So it is frustrating. I mean, you can't blame them. It's entirely frustrating that they're beating themselves, and this team is not in a position to beat themselves. I mean, we know this roster, how this roster is constructed. We know their capabilities and the tough opposition that are in not just their division, but the rest of the league.
Yeah.
It's going to be an uphill battle from the get-go in every game for this team, and you cannot afford to beat yourself, and that's what they're doing. Like you said, bullpen, once you get into it, you cut it to 2. Great. We're right there. But then the bullpen implodes, and then next thing you know, it's 16-2.
And what was frustrating last night, too, is when young guys make a lot of mistakes and, whether it's errors in the field or you see a young guy just come out of the bullpen and just not have it a certain day, not know how to pitch, that's one thing. The fact that Dan Straley gave up all those runs and the fact that his ERA is now up over 10, I mean, this is a veteran pitcher who, over his career, has had an ERA probably around 4. Yeah. I mean, he has been a solid pitcher, was last year in Miami, and was pretty much, he mentioned at the beginning of the season when he got cut, he was kind of expecting almost that he might not be handed it, but he was going to get a chance to be the opening day starter for Miami. Ends up getting cut. And for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's injury or what is going on with him, but he just seems to have nothing remotely close to what he used to have over the entire course of his career. He does not look like the same guy, and it's not a small sample size. He's pitched in almost 15 games now, and it's getting to the point, sadly, and he's a veteran guy. He's not that old, but this team could certainly use some guys to eat up some innings that are veterans. Yeah, it's getting to the point where you can't run him out there anymore.
Yeah, and it's again that just adds to the frustration, guys. It's so many different things. It's a lot of different things. It's young guys not being quite there yet, and then it's also a mixture of veteran guys who aren't playing up to their level of expectations, and then also guys not being available. We still haven't seen Mark Trumbo yet. Chris Davis was out for a while. Yeah. Luckily, Trey Mancini didn't miss too many times. But it's like, again, it's all these frustrations boiling up. I think this has been probably the hardest week for Brandon Hyde as a manager, as the Orioles manager. Obviously, the 7 straight losses, but I think everyone heard and saw his quotes after Saturday's 7-2 loss to the Red Sox, basically saying we're taking inventory here. We're giving these guys an opportunity, and they're not taking it. They're not taking advantage of it, and they need to start to realize why they're here. There are young guys fighting to stay in this organization. There are veterans fighting for that next contract, or to re-sign, or to get paid for their careers. Yeah. And we saw Brandon Hyde get ejected Sunday afternoon. I think rightfully so too. Though I agreed with him. That was a pretty terrible call on Keon Broxton getting thrown out, running down the first baseline. But nonetheless, still frustrations. And then obviously, you play a close game Monday night. That's fine. I think he can live with that loss because they were in it. They fought to the end. But then yesterday, again, you battle back. You get close enough, and then it all kind of goes away and like a blink of an eye. And it's got to be very trying for him right now. It's a tough time for him as a manager, probably the coaches and the players. It is just really, really hard to go through when you go through a stretch like this and you continue to beat yourselves.
Yeah. The team is not without its bright spots. We have talked about Trey Mancini being Trey Mancini. He continues to hit over 300, continues to be the #vote Trey All-Star candidate that we all expected out of him. There are some other bright spots. Actually, Kevin Brown of the radio's broadcast brought this to our attention via Twitter about Hanser Alberto. He is I believe the term that was used is a Statcast miracle. So he is hitting 311 at this point, Bobby.
Yeah.
And he's doing it with next to no power. I mean, really, he has never been known as a power guy in his career.
Only got 3 homers.
Yeah, not hitting the ball hard pretty much at all. His Statcast page, his exit velocity is all the way down to poor. I mean, that is like that's like a guy who is hitting under the Mendoza line.
Yeah.
Is typically that kind of. A hard hit percentage is all the way down on the left. Expected on base percentage is all the way down on the left. Expected slugging percentage is all the way down to the left. He is defying. He is amazingly. You talk about small ball and about guys like getting on base, and that everybody thinks baseball needs more of that. Hanser Alberto is like the ideal kind of version of that. He doesn't bring really any power to the plate, and he doesn't walk a ton. But he just knows how to get on base. He knows how to hit it where they ain't. And for somebody who lacks those kind of tools, it's nice to see that he is figuring out how to carve out a role for himself on this team and make himself, relevant in Major League Baseball and on a Major League roster, while not having the tools to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Or even, he's not even all that fast.
No.
And he's an excellent bunter. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a non-pitcher be that good of a bunter.
Yeah.
It just knows where to hit the ball and knows how to put it where they ain't.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that Brandon Hyde's talking about. He's brought in here. You're given an opportunity. Make a name for yourself. Find your niche. What can you do? What can you help us? How can you help us? How can you help us win? And Hanser Alberto has found that. Leading off, he's hitting 370 in the leadoff spot. Yeah. When he's leading off an inning, he's hitting 382. When he's leading off the game, he's hitting 438. So he's like, okay, I can get on base. I'll put the ball. I'm good at putting the ball, like you said, whether or not. I can bunt the ball down the line. I can get on base. And that's kind of what, one, we haven't seen from this team in a long time. Remember, they lived and died by the long ball for so many years. And then two, this is how this team is going to win. Get guys on base and get them in. Because you're not going to outslug these teams. You just don't have the power up and down your lineup like they used to. And you do have the speed and young talent. Find a way to get on base and then get in, because it's going to be tough for you to outscore guys. I mean, obviously, many other things have to go in place for the Orioles to win. I mean, Brandon Hyde, he said, we almost have to play a perfect game every night. And not beat ourselves, and that's what they've been doing. But by getting on base, getting over, getting in, I think that's their formula for winning now. It hasn't happened yet, but Hanser Alberto has certainly made a name for himself, and at least making a step forward in that process. Yeah, and this team definitely, I agree with you there, Bobby, and that kind of assessment for Brandon Hyde of they need to play a pretty much flawless game. In order. They need their best guys in the bullpen lined up in order, and they just have not gotten anything from them recently. The bullpen has been incredibly frustrating. And that's the main thing, I think, for me. I think obviously Alex Cobb hasn't pitched, and he's not going to pitch the rest of the season. That's frustrating. Going back to guys being available or not. But it's the beating yourself. Orioles fans are frustrated. The players are frustrated. Brandon Hyde is frustrated, I'm sure. It's, giving yourself an opportunity. We can, it's almost like if you're going to, you can lose and be in it.
Yeah.
Like again, Monday night, 3-2 loss. That's a loss that you can wear because it's like, all right, we gave ourselves a chance. We stayed in the game. They just got us tonight.
Yeah.
Last night is the hard pill to swallow is because you went down early, you fought back, gave yourself a chance, and then blew it.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing. And Brandon Hyde called it embarrassing. And that's the one that's going to get under your skins because how can we keep letting this happen to us? We keep letting the game slip away late in the late innings.
Yep.
And now that's when when people who don't cover the team or fans who wake up the next morning, look at the scoreboard and say, oh, 16-2, just another Orioles blowout.
Right.
Well, no, they were in it through the sixth.
And
they had a chance to come back and win.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. And then we're seeing Brandon Hyde boil over. Hopefully they can pull out a win this afternoon on a getaway day before going to Seattle. And
before we toss over to Amy Jennings' news, I do want to give a glimmer of hope to Orioles fans. This was brought to my attention. Wonderful tweet by intern Brendan. This is so the Astros played the Reds recently. Obviously, Michael Elias comes from the Astros. The last time these two teams met was back in 2012, which, as you might remember, is like right in the peak of the Astros rebuild.
Yep.
The lean years of those that rebuild. The Astros lineup on September 9th, 2012. I think it was one of those seasons where they lost 100 games. Paredes, Bogusevich, Wallace, Martinez, Dominguez, Corporon, Schaefer, Green, and Edgar Gonzalez. Do you recognize any of those names?
Definitely not without first name. But
yeah.
But no, I do not.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is, and I think that goes to show as frustrating as the day-to-day can be, as you see a 16-2 loss and you see them losing 7 in a row, just know that a lot of these guys on this roster might not be around for the long term. Right. And they are hopefully going to be replaced by much younger, better players.
Well, I would also show that tweet to the current players right now. Like, look, people don't know who these guys are because they didn't take advantage of the opportunity that they were given in a rebuilding team.
Ooh, interesting.
Right?
Interesting take on it.
It's like, hey, Brandon Hyde has said time and time, this is a golden opportunity for guys who want to either kickstart their careers or restart their careers. Yeah. Hanser, Alberto, Jonathan VR, these guys are looking for Renato Nunez. These guys are looking to extend their careers and make a name for themselves so they can either, become a part of this team's long-term future.
Yep.
We can debate whether that's likely or not, but still that's a realistic goal for them, or find a job elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, outside of Houston, people may have forgotten those names. I would say try not to let your name be forgotten outside of Baltimore.
It's a good motivational tool. I'm going to hire you as a motivational speaker.
I can do that. Yeah,
I think you could.
I'm a pretty positive guy.
You are a very positive guy.
Look at things the other side. Bright side.
Yep.
Mr. Brightside.
I would work on that.
You know the Killer song?
You come into the room by blasting Mr. Brightside, just pumping yourself up.
Yeah, throwing candy like Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Just like
out of the bag.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
$100,000.
That is terrific stuff. All right, we are going to get to Amy Jennings' news, but first, take a listen to a word from intern Brendan.
Hey Orioles fans, Brendan Mortensen here from the MASN All Access podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. When we're all wrapped up, be sure to head over to masnsports.com for all of your Orioles content. This week, Rock Kabako breaks down what the Orioles' plan for David Hess could be going forward, and Steve Mileski gives you all the details you need to know for Baltimore series in Oakland. Everything Orioles can be found right there on masnsports.com. And oh yeah, #vote Shrek.
And now making her MASN All Access podcast and MASN All Access in general debut, Amy Jennings, a.k.a. Amy Jennings News on some platforms.
Yes. Fellow Terp.
That's right. Go Terps.
Go Terps.
Yeah. All right.
You're finally outnumbered up here,
We'll
Paul.
get intern Brendan on here soon enough, and he's going to, he makes another cue. And also, Otto is always watching over us.
You need a test too, don't you?
Yeah, I've been saying that for years.
Years,
right
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So, Amy, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Fresh
Thanks for
from
having me.
the fresh from the Carolina League All-Star Classic.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome. It was a day full of action-packed activities.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had an autograph signing before the game up on the concourse. And then they had a hitting challenge, which was interesting. They had like different targets out in the field, and Nick Markakis, big head, you could hit. You could bunt into a hula hoop to get some points. And so they had 3 representatives from the Northern Division and the Southern Division, and they combined their points. And the team that won money, the Southern Division won that.
Ooh,
That's pretty cool.
How much cash money
Yeah.
are we talking here?
$200.
Couple hundred.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. The big bucks.
It's a couple nice nights at Arby's.
It's pretty intense.
All-Star games are always events and pretty fun, but like especially for like a single A level All-Star game, and also in mid-June, we're not halfway through the Major League season, so people aren't really expecting All-Star games. Like I feel like you have to put on more of like a spectacle than maybe because get people to come here and it's like, hey, look, these guys are good too. They can play. Come join the show, join the event, and make it a whole day's worth of things. And luckily, the rain also held out for you guys too.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a big event for fans, and especially local fans, because they're the ones that can come out to
Right.
the ballpark.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been in Frederick for so long, so these fans are excited. I got there at 1:30. Gates opened at 3, and there were at least like 75 fans.
Oh, nice.
Outside,
Yeah.
so
And
it was packed.
And it was especially important for Frederick fans because they were hosting it, which means the entire coaching staff was coaching it, correct?
Exactly, yep.
And also, they broke the record, their personal record in terms of the number of players on that team, 9 Frederick Keys.
Yeah, it was the most keys on the All-Star roster in 10 years. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So, I don't want to. We don't need to touch on every single guy, but I do want to touch on some of the standouts because when you have 9 guys, they're going to impact the game, and some of them had a pretty big impact on that game last night.
Right.
So let's start with Michael Baumann.
Yeah.
He the pitcher.
Yep, he pitched scoreless first for the Keys. He said his best combination of pitches is fastball slider. I think his fastball reached 94 and his slider was around 85 or 86 yesterday. But he pitched a 1-2-3 first, and then Steven Klimek also pitched an inning in relief. He walked 1, but then he struck 2 out. And his brother actually works in the Orioles organization.
Really?
Yeah, he works in advanced scouting. So we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
He said they always wanted to, work in baseball together, and it just so happened they got to do it.
Nice.
Same team.
So is that like the advanced scouting? Is that being like kind of like the sabermetrics division working along with Sigma Dell?
We weren't
like
allowed
that?
to talk too much about
Okay.
what he does specifically.
Right. Ooh,
Kinda
I like
like
the secrecy.
NASA.
Yeah, just like that actually.
That's what Sig Mejdal brought from NASA.
Yeah.
Was the secrecy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's cool. He can then scout his brother and be like, "Hey, I hear this Klimek guy is pretty good."
He's
It's
like,
"Is that your brother?"
No, no relation.
No, I've never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
All right, so Michael Baumann was solid. He's 23 years old. He came actually to the ballpark, to Oriole Park at Camden Yards, a few weeks ago. He's a big dude, too.
yeah,
He's like 6'4".
Yeah.
And he's currently the 25th ranked Orioles prospect, according to MLB Pipeline.
Yeah.
So aside from the pitching side, who are some of the standouts in the lineup?
yeah. So Willie Yon, who I'm pretty sure is like the most popular man in all of Frederick. Every time, like when they were signing autographs, he had his own table.
Really?
Which he was like, "Do I smell? Like, what's up here?" But yeah, super popular. Every time he came up to bat, crowd went crazy. He plays third base. So they were the Northern Division, which is who all the Keys were playing for.
Yeah.
They were down 5-0 going into the 6th. Had a big 6th inning, scored 4 runs, and in that inning, Willie Yon had a 2-run double. So
Nice.
he was a big part of that. Yeah, finished off that. And then it was Cole Billingsley played center field last night. He had the tying single, so they played a big part in the Northern Division comeback.
Yeah. And I think for back to Baumann, pretty cool that he gets to start an All-Star game in your home stadium, and the solid pitching shutout inning. I'm looking through the box score. It looks like all the Keys that kind of got in had pretty solid outings. No one really kind of gave up any
a
major
huge-
runs and that kind of thing. We've talked, Paul and I, you were with us in Bowie. We've talked about how, Orioles fans think that this farm system is depleted of pitching and they want to draft pitching. But when we had Adam Pohl in Bowie talk on the podcast just a week ago, he was like, actually, no, like there's a lot of pitching going on throughout the system and all the way down to Frederick, and they showed out in the All-Star game, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, they had 5 pitchers on this All-Star roster, so I think that just shows. You know, you have 5 guys who
and the starter
pitch well enough, exactly, to earn a spot, and then you have one who starts the game. I think that shows what they have coming up in their farm system.
So what'd you see also from the coaching staff getting a chance? Because it's not just the manager; it's the entire coaching staff down there in Frederick.
Right. I talked a little bit to Ryan Miner after the game, and he was kind of like, he said more, it's about having fun and keeping these guys. It was Willie Young actually was like running up and down the dugout when they were down. The Northern Division was down. He was keeping them. Yeah, but I think it's cool, you get the opportunity to coach these guys, especially he gets an opportunity to coach these guys that he's always coaching against.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different environment, but it's a good opportunity. They got to host it. They didn't win their division, but they hosted it, so they got to, coach the Northern Division.
Yeah.
I like the quote from Willie Young being like, because the North was down early, early in the second inning too. So he was like running up and down the dugout, being the greatest All-Star game comeback of all time, and they pulled it off. Yeah,
I don't know if it was the greatest. I don't know, but
I don't know how All-Star games. I don't even know the MLB greatest comeback, but it's pretty cool.
Sounds good to me.
And it's an All-Star game. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to go out and play. Just kind of show if anything, it's a day to be kind of selfish, because when you're playing with your team and in your division, in your league, you're playing for your team. You want W's, but you also want to, groom yourself. But then in an All-Star game, you're representing your team. You want to play for yourself. You want to kind of show off. And that's kind of cool that he was able to show hey, a little leadership and also have some fun on the side and then also pull it off.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, did you notice he had kind of like because a lot of Orioles fans don't know these guys, obviously, having watched them, and they know less about their personalities and such.
Right.
Did Jan's personality stick out? Did anybody else's personality?
Maybe, I'm thinking that might be why he's so popular with Keys fans.
Right.
Because, he was running up and down in front of the dugout. In between innings, they were doing like a little dance. What dance is it? It's like, da, 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 da.
Jump on.
Jump on it, yeah. He was out of the dugout doing that in between innings. So I think that helps. It helps keeps the fans in it.
Ease the tension.
I think Amy was just looking for an excuse to sing or hum on the
I
podcast.
can get up. No. I can show you now.
Anyway, it looked kind of like this.
Yeah, we have far too many musical talents.
Yeah, and
in this website,
we really do. We really do.
Paul's gonna sing.
Intern
Brendan.
a cappella.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of the ages of these guys, a lot of them are kind of, which you might expect for, an all-star game, because it's, the best, and typically you are the better as you get along.
Right.
It is interesting because, these guys, because of their ages, I feel like can advance through the Orioles system quickly because they're not going to be held down because of their age. So like Bauman, he's 23. Klimek is 25. David LeBron is 25. Luis Perez, who played in the game, and
24,
24. He replaced Cody Sedlock. Willie Yan is 23. It feels like a lot of these guys are a little bit on the older side for high A.
Right, and for a lot of them, I was talking to them. It's their first All-Star game, so super exciting.
Right. Yeah.
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 So talk about Sedlock real quick. Did Miner talk about him at all and the decision not to? He was named an All-Star, but he obviously didn't pitch.
Yeah,
they're working on his innings at Frederick. What was their latest on him?
I think he's set to make a start later this week.
Okay.
Which is why he didn't play.
Yeah. So just kind of saving his arm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And in terms of the atmosphere, did you get any good food? Did you get any fun fan interactions?
I got some ballpark food, chicken tenders. Classic. Had to do that. There are just a lot of kids.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Some of them I think got pulled out of school.
Yeah, well, also school's probably out.
Yeah, I think in Frederick County it is, but in other
because you said there are people lined up at 3:00. I was like, it's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday.
No, it was. I did not expect it. I was like, oh my goodness, but that's so cool.
Was it a 7:00 game?
It was.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive that they have people waiting at the door at 3:00 in the
Right.
middle of the week.
Yeah.
With impending bad weather.
Right.
To
The
come out
lines
and
for to get autographs before. Not everybody could get autographs. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So,
Sounds
great
like
atmosphere.
Yeah.
Awesome. Exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going down and covering that for us and
Of
giving us. And
course.
be sure to check out our Facebook page, Twitter page, because there is a video wrap coming of that very shortly. MASN Orioles. And where can we find you on Twitter, Amy?
Amy Jennings News.
Amy Jennings News.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Bobby, where can we find you on Twitter?
I'm at Bobby_Blanco. Paul, where are you?
I'm at Paul Mancano. Be sure to follow us, like, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, you can find us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.